Hello everyone, my name is Meitong Chen. Today I'm gonna introduce a Japanese poem named The Damned Fence. They've sunk the posts deep into the ground. They've strewn out wires all the way around. With machine gun nests just over there, and sentries and soldiers everywhere. We're trapped like rats in a weird cage, to fret and fume with impotent rage. Yonder whispers the lure of the night, but that damned fence assails our sight. We seek the softness of the midnight air, but that damned fence in the flood-like glare awakens unrest in our nocular quest, and mock-killing lives with vicious jest. With nowhere to go and nothing to do, we feel terrible, lonesome, and blue. The damned face is driving us crazy, destroying our youth and making us lazy. Imprisoned in here for a long, long time. We know we're punished, though we've committed no crime. Our thoughts are gloomy and enthusiasm damp, to be locked up in a concentration camp. Loyalty we know, and patriotism we feel. To sacrifice our utmost was our ideal. To fight for our country and die, perhaps. But we're here because we happen to be Japs. We all love life and our country best. Our misfortune to be here in the West, to keep us pinned behind that damned fence, is someone's notion of national defense. The writer is a Japanese American who used to be imprisoned in the internment camps. The wider names cannot now be textual researched by now, but we can say, from the poem, to say exactly what the writer is suffering at that time. As we know, the beginning of Asian immigration, especially Japanese, Chinese, came to U.S. They get jobs, lower jobs, hard-working jobs. They spent their tears, blood, and a life to build America, and hope to get a life there and better life for their kids, their grandkids, better than themselves. But they've never recognized as truly American since they look exactly different from those European immigrants. During the World War II, the war between America and Japan started. Those Japanese Americans will be recognized as Japanese, no matter if they're kids who just born in America, and no matter if those kids were never been to Japan. U.S. government just regard them as potential threats and enemies, and they generate the idea to relocate those Japanese American and give their kind of loyalty questionnaire to determine their future. Family broke, business broke, everything is kind of mess to Japanese American at that time. But what public know is exactly what the government wants to show. And in the poem it says, with machine gun nests just over there and sentries and soldiers everywhere. Japanese American will be forced to live in a camp, watching by soldiers. Think about it, how can normal people doing normal behaviors by watching by strangers? They cannot live in a normal life, of course. There's no freedom for them. They were just treated as animals. In the poem it also says, we're trapped like rats in a weird cage. They were hopeless. No one help. So, from my perspective, since their ancestry took low-wage hard jobs, which refused taken by European American, they stood on European American. They stood on higher economic standards. They thought those Asian workers as a lower level community than themselves. Even after Japanese American got citizenship, those European Americans still not recognize Japanese American as a truly American, and that's the Japanese American be treated really different, even than those immigrants. Even they're in camps. They are the only the Japanese American is the only community be given a loyalty questionnaire, those tricky questionnaire. Then in poem it says, "With nowhere to go and nothing to do. That damned fence is driving us crazy, destroying our youth and making us lazy." Their only living areas was within the camp. No education, no normal business. They could exactly lose their ability to live as a normal human being, especially for those old people. They won't have any ability living by themselves after they leave the camp. And what the author also said is, we know we are punished though we committed no crime. To fight for our country and die perhaps, but we are here because we happen to be Japs. Look at the Japanese American, of course, love their countries. They want to fight for their countries and willing to die. But the reason why they were here and suffering all those, they're all because their descent was recognized as Japanese. Because of their race, they were forced into this disaster. No human right to make a voice. So many dark sides in camps were never being known by others, by public. I was so impressed by the last two sentences of the poem. It says, "To keep us pinned behind that damned fence is someone's notion of national defense." That is true. That why Japanese American were recognized as Japanese as different from true American. Those things, those conceptions were given by the European American, those white people. They give the notion, they give the definition. From my perspective, I think they just don't want to share their resources and space those white people they owned. Since Japanese American looked different, acted different, and their culture base was really different from it. Excuse me. European American have superiority complex in front of those Asian faces. So their notion of national defense making the challenge of American Japanese. We can imagine how hard and awkward the social standards for Japanese American at that time, since US refused to recognize them as citizens, and Japan, of course, how will they admit the Japanese Americans as citizens since they were never on the land of Japan? Japanese American belonged to nowhere at that time. So for this part of history, I believe every time we record, we will feel the pain in our heart, especially for those people who actually experienced once. Even today, there are still so many issues under racial discrimination. So what we should do is to avoid those mistakes happening in history, and try our best and put our efforts to make a more equal society, a more equal world for all of us, for all of our races. And this is my presentation. Thanks for watching.